In Sanctuary District A, there was an uprising at the beginning of September with far-reaching consequences. Armed groups of residents had taken over the district's headquarters and taken hostages. On the streaming channel, Channel 90, operated by Christopher Brinner, those affected were then able to tell their story and made it clear how bad the people are treated there. How the insurgents managed to gain access and why Brinner allowed this to happen remains a mystery. Brinner himself said only succinctly, "Everything for the quota." As a result of these revelations, riots also broke out in other sanctuary districts. However, the riots did not end well, because armed troops entered the districts to put down the uprisings. There were hundreds of deaths, mainly among the inhabitants. The fact that none of the hostages had been killed is thanks to only one man, Gabriel Bell. He threw himself into the line of fire of the armed troops and thus prevented another massacre. But it costs his own life. The American public is shocked by the events and there have been calls for quick actions for a change. President Biden reacted immediately and abolished the sanctuary districts without further ado. "It's time for America to solve its own problems," he is quoted as saying. In fact, the dismantling of the sanctuary districts is proceeding extremely quickly, probably also because Biden's designated successor was able to use this in the election campaign and show that the districts are based on mistakes by the Trump administration. However, the reintegration of the detainees will probably take a little longer. In the wake of last month's attacks, and of course in September, the US has allowed the use of its long-range weapons on Russian territory. This was preceded not only by increased attacks by Russia, but also by a slight advance in the Donetsk region. Ukraine defended itself against this with an advance into the Kursk region, which Russia hadn't really opposed so far. Now, for the first time, Western-made missiles may also be used for attacks behind the border, with the restriction that they only destroy the supply lines. President Zelensky had repeatedly called for this in recent months, but the incumbent president has now given in. Reactions from Russia followed promptly and warned of a further escalation level, but this is also nothing new from the Kremlin. There is also another back and forth in the Gaza war. Although Israeli forces have succeeded in isolated advances as well as in eliminating important Hamas leaders, other killed hostages have also appeared. The latter in particular led to further protests against President Netanyahu, who has so far been rather unimpressed. This is also due to the fact that the US has pledged further support for Israel in its war. But not only there, but also for Ukraine, further billions in military support have been authorized. The conflict between Israel and Gaza lasted for nearly a year now and started with Hamas' attack on a music festival on October 7, 2023, more than 1,000 people died that day.